Get your dirty hands off her dress. Vanessa Cole shouted across the crystal ballroom. The music stopped. Hundreds of rich guests turned at once. Champagne glasses froze in the air. Amara Bennett stood trembling beside the dessert table, her faded waitress uniform stained with red wine. Her hands shook so badly that the tray nearly slipped again. I did not touch her, Amara whispered. Please, it was an accident. Vanessa laughed coldly. Diamonds sparkled around her neck. An accident? Girls like you always create accidents when rich men are watching. Phones lifted instantly. Guests whispered behind fake smiles. Some recorded her. Some laughed openly. Amara lowered her eyes. Her old shoes were wet from the rain outside. Her sleeves were worn thin. Inside her small bag were unpaid hospital bills for her mother. That job was the only thing keeping Evelyn Bennett alive. Then heavy footsteps crossed the marble floor. Damien Cole. The billionaire owner of Cole Holdings. Tall. Calm. Feared by everyone in the room. His black suit looked sharper than the security guard standing behind him. His deep eyes landed on Vanessa's ruined white dress first. Then on Amara. Who did this? Damien asked quietly. Nobody answered. Vanessa stepped closer to him instantly. That waitress attacked me in front of everyone. Amara's lips parted in panic. No, sir, please listen, slap. The sound cracked through the ballroom like broken glass. Amara stumbled sideways. Gasps spread across the room. One guest covered her mouth. Another smiled. Damien's hand slowly lowered. His voice stayed cold. You humiliate my fiancé at my event? Tears filled Amara's eyes instantly. She touched her burning cheek but tried not to cry. I swear. I did not mean, enough, Vanessa snapped. Throw her out. Two guards started walking toward her. The crowd moved back as if poverty itself was contagious. Amara looked smaller with every step they took closer. Please, she begged softly. My mother is in the hospital. I need this job. Nobody moved. Nobody defended her. Vanessa folded her arms. Maybe you should have thought about your sick mother before embarrassing yourself. Some guests laughed under their breath. One woman whispered, these poor girls always want attention. Amara's breathing became uneven. She reached into her bag with trembling fingers and pulled out folded hospital papers. Please, Mr. Cole. I only need one more week. Damien barely looked at the papers. Security. The guards grabbed Amara's arms gently but firmly. Tears finally rolled down her face. Please do not do this, she whispered. I cannot lose this job. For 1 second, an older waiter near the back looked ready to speak. His mouth opened slightly. Hope flickered in Amara's eyes. Then Vanessa turned sharply toward him. Are you questioning my word too? The man lowered his head immediately. Silence swallowed the room again. Rich people watched like it was entertainment. A violinist slowly stopped playing. Even the fountain outside sounded louder now. As the guards pulled Amara toward the exit, something slipped from her neck. A silver chain. A small pendant swung into the light. Damien's eyes narrowed instantly. His steps slowed. The room blurred around him for half a second. He knew that necklace. Somewhere deep in his memory, he had seen it before. Amara quickly grabbed the pendant and hid it inside her uniform again. Fear flashed across her face. Vanessa noticed Damien staring. Her smile disappeared for one dangerous second. Damien? She asked carefully. But he did not answer immediately. His eyes stayed on Amara. On the necklace. On the strange look of pain in her face. Where did you get that? He asked suddenly. The ballroom went silent again. Amara froze. It belonged to my mother, she whispered. Vanessa stepped forward fast. Enough of this nonsense. She shoved the hospital papers from Amara's hands. The papers scattered across the marble floor like broken pieces of her life. One guest stepped on them without noticing. Amara dropped to her knees trying to gather them while people stared above her in expensive clothes and diamonds. A single tear fell onto the paper showing Evelyn Bennett's treatment balance. Past due. Final warning. Damien looked down at the papers. Then back at the necklace. Something inside him shifted slightly. But before he could speak again, Vanessa grabbed his arm. Do not let a liar manipulate you. The guards dragged Amara toward the giant front doors. Rain crashed outside. Her small bag fell open across the floor. Pills spilled out. A faded photograph slid near Damien's shoes. He bent slightly and saw half of an old picture. A younger woman holding a child. The edge of the photo was torn. But one name was still visible at the bottom. Evelyn Bennett. Suddenly, an elderly guest near the staircase gasped quietly. His face turned pale as he stared at Amara. Wait, he whispered. Did you say Bennett? The entire ballroom turned again. And Damien slowly looked up from the photograph. The elderly man near the staircase slowly stepped forward, his hands trembling around his glass. Rain crashed harder outside the mansion windows. The ballroom stayed silent. Damien Cole still held the torn photograph in his hand. His eyes moved between the old man and Amara Bennett. What did you say? Damien asked quietly. The old man swallowed hard. Evelyn Bennett. I knew that name years ago. Vanessa's face tightened instantly. This is ridiculous, she snapped. She is a waitress, Damien. Throw her out already. But Damien did not move this time. His eyes stayed on Amara's face. On the silver pendant hidden against her chest. On the fear in her shaking hands. Amara slowly stood from the floor, clutching her hospital papers tightly. Her cheek was still red from the slap. Humiliation burned in her eyes, but she forced herself to stay calm. Sir, she whispered, please let me leave. Damien looked at the torn photograph again. The woman in the picture looked familiar. Too familiar. Where is your mother now? He asked suddenly. Amara hesitated. Vanessa stepped between them fast. Why are you questioning her like this? She demanded. Because something does not add up, Damien answered coldly. The guests exchanged nervous looks. A billionaire questioning a poor waitress in the middle of his own engagement party was already turning into gossip. One woman lowered her phone slowly. Another guest whispered, why does he care so much? Amara's voice cracked softly. My mother is at St. Mary Hospital. Damien's expression shifted for half a second. St. Mary. The same hospital connected to a sealed family case from years ago. Vanessa noticed immediately. Fear flashed deep inside her eyes before her smile returned. Damien, she said carefully, you are letting a stranger manipulate you. Enough, Damien replied quietly. The room froze again. Tiny hope flickered inside Amara for the first time all night. Not safety. Not trust. Just one moment where somebody finally listened. Damien crouched slightly and handed her the scattered hospital papers himself. Gasps spread through the ballroom. A billionaire touching papers from a poor waitress with his own hands. Thank you, Amara whispered weakly. Their fingers almost touched. Damien noticed something else then. A small birthmark near her wrist. His breathing slowed. He had seen that exact mark once before. Long ago. Vanessa quickly grabbed his arm again. Do not embarrass me for this girl. Damien pulled his arm away gently. I asked you to stop interrupting. Silence. Sharp. Dangerous. Amara lowered her eyes again. I never wanted trouble, she said softly. I only wanted to keep my job. My mother needs medicine tonight. The old man near the staircase suddenly spoke again. Evelyn once worked for the Cole family. Every guest turned instantly. Vanessa's face lost color for one dangerous second. That is enough, she snapped loudly. You are old and confused. The man hesitated. Fear entered his face immediately. Maybe I remember wrong. Tiny hope died again inside Amara's chest. The rich guests started whispering louder now. Cole family. Impossible. Why would a poor waitress be connected to them? Damien's jaw tightened. He looked directly at Amara. What is your full name? Amara hesitated again. Her fingers tightened around the pendant under her uniform. Amara Bennett, she answered softly. Damien's eyes narrowed. Bennett. Again. The same surname. The same hospital. The same birthmark. Vanessa forced a laugh. There are thousands of Bennetts in this city. But her voice sounded thinner now. Less confident. If you are listening right now, comment where you are watching from, and tell me honestly, do you think Amara is hiding something, or is somebody hiding the truth from her? Outside, thunder shook the windows. A servant quietly approached Damien and handed him a phone. Sir, the servant whispered nervously, there is a call from St. Mary Hospital. Amara's face turned pale instantly. My mother, she breathed. Damien answered the call slowly. His expression darkened with every second. Then he looked directly at Amara again. Your mother asked for you, he said quietly. But she also said another name before she collapsed. Amara stopped breathing. What name? Damien stared at her for a long moment before answering. She called you. Amelia Cole. The entire ballroom fell silent. Vanessa's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered across the marble floor. The champagne glass shattered across the marble floor. Vanessa Cole stared at Damien in disbelief. What did you just call her? She whispered. But Damien was no longer looking at Vanessa. His eyes stayed locked on Amara Bennett. Or Amelia. The poor waitress stood frozen beneath the giant chandelier, rainwater still dripping from her old shoes onto the polished floor. Her lips trembled. No, she whispered softly. That is not my name. Damien stepped closer slowly. Then why did your mother say it? The room felt colder instantly. Rich guests whispered harder now. Phones lifted again. Amara clutched her hospital papers against her chest like they were the only thing holding her together. I do not know, she said weakly. My mother never talks about the past. Vanessa grabbed Damien's arm tightly. This girl is lying. Damien gently removed her hand. I said enough. Silence crashed across the ballroom again. Then another cough echoed through Amara's cracked phone. A hospital voicemail. Her mother's weak voice. Amara, please come back, please. Tears filled Amara's eyes instantly. I have to go. She bent quickly to pick up the spilled medicine from the floor. One bottle was empty now. No refills left. Damien noticed. His jaw tightened slightly. Outside the mansion gates, the rain poured harder. 15 minutes later, Amara sat alone on a crowded city bus, holding her torn bag tightly against her chest. Her waitress uniform was still stained. Her cheek still burned from the slap. Rich guests returned to dancing behind crystal windows while she rode back toward St. Mary Hospital with barely enough money for bus fare. Across town, Damien stood silently inside his dark office. The torn photograph rested on his desk beside the silver pendant image captured by security cameras. His assistant Marcus stood nearby holding an old file box. Sir, Marcus said carefully, I checked the Bennett name. Evelyn Bennett worked briefly for your family 23 years ago. Damien looked up sharply. Why was her file sealed? Marcus hesitated. Part of the archive is missing. Meanwhile, Amara rushed through the crowded hospital hallway. The fluorescent lights flickered above her. Nurses moved quickly past broken chairs and tired families sleeping against walls. Poverty smelled like medicine and exhaustion there. Her mother Evelyn lay weak beneath thin blankets, coughing softly. "Mama," Amara whispered, kneeling beside the bed. Evelyn's tired eyes opened slowly. Fear crossed her face immediately. "Did they see the necklace?" she whispered. Amara froze. "How do you know about that?" Evelyn grabbed her wrist weakly. "You must hide it." "Why?" Amara asked desperately. "Who is Amelia Cole?" Evelyn's breathing became uneven. Tears slid down her face. "I wanted to protect you." Before she could say more, a doctor entered holding another unpaid bill. "Miss Bennett," he said quietly, "the hospital cannot continue treatment without payment." Amara lowered her eyes in shame. "Please give me more time." "We already did." Evelyn started coughing harder. Amara held her hand tightly. "Do not leave me," she whispered through tears. The doctor sighed and left the bill beside the bed. Past due. Final notice. Across the hall, two wealthy women walked past in expensive coats without even glancing inside the room. The contrast felt cruel. One world slept under crystal chandeliers. Another begged for medicine under broken lights. Amara slowly opened her bag again, searching for money. Instead, she found the old photograph Damien had touched earlier. Something else slipped out with it. A folded yellow letter she had never seen before. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The ink was faded. One sentence stood out immediately. "If anything happens to me, protect Amelia from the Cole family." Amara stopped breathing. Tiny hope mixed with terror inside her chest. Before she could ask Evelyn about the letter, the lights inside the room flickered again. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered carefully. "Miss Bennett," a calm male voice said. "This is Marcus Reed from Cole Holdings. Mr. Damien Cole wants to speak with you privately." Amara's face tightened with fear. "Why?" Marcus paused. "Because somebody inside the Cole family erased part of your past." At that exact moment, outside the hospital window, a black luxury car slowly parked across the street. Inside the car, Vanessa Cole lowered her sunglasses and stared directly toward Amara's hospital room. Vanessa Cole slowly removed her sunglasses inside the black car parked across from St. Mary Hospital. Rain slid across the tinted window beside her. Her manicured fingers tightened around her phone as she stared directly at Amara's hospital room upstairs. "So she still has it," Vanessa whispered coldly. Inside the hospital room, Amara stood frozen with the yellow letter shaking in her hands. Marcus Reed's voice remained calm through the phone. "Miss Bennett, Mr. Cole believes someone erased part of your family history." Amara looked toward her weak mother immediately. Evelyn turned pale. "Do not trust them," she whispered hoarsely. "Not yet." Amara's voice trembled. "Then tell me the truth." Evelyn looked terrified instead of relieved. Before she could answer, loud coughing interrupted her again. The heart monitor beeped unevenly beside the bed. A nurse rushed in. "She needs rest now." The yellow letter slipped partially from Amara's fingers. Marcus noticed something through the video call reflection. A small crest stamped at the bottom of the page. His eyes widened slightly. "Miss Bennett," he said carefully, "can you show me that letter again?" Amara hesitated. Fear filled her face. Downstairs, Damien Cole stepped out of another black SUV beneath the rain. Hospital workers instantly recognized him. Nurses whispered. Security straightened their uniforms. Power followed him everywhere. But Damien ignored them all. His eyes remained serious as he entered the old building carrying the torn photograph from the mansion. Marcus met him near the elevator. "Sir," Marcus said quietly, "the crest on the letter matches the old Cole estate records." Damien stopped walking. "That is impossible." "There is more," Marcus added. "The missing archive file belonged to a woman named Amelia Cole." Silence fell between them. Upstairs, Amara carefully folded the letter again and hid it beneath her faded jacket. She looked exhausted now. Her waitress shoes were still wet. Her hospital bill rested beside empty medicine bottles. Poverty surrounded her from every direction. Yet somehow, rich people suddenly wanted answers from her. She did not understand why. Damien finally entered the hallway outside Evelyn's room. Through the small glass window, he saw Amara gently helping her mother drink water. The scene made him pause. No cameras. No crowd. No performance. Just a poor girl protecting the only family she had left. "She does not look like a liar," Marcus murmured softly. Damien did not answer immediately. Then he noticed something strange. Around Evelyn's wrist was the same silver symbol engraved onto the pendant from the security footage. His eyes darkened instantly. "Ask the hospital for her old records," he ordered quietly. "Every file." Inside the room, Amara sensed someone outside. She turned slowly and saw Damien through the glass. Fear crossed her face immediately. "Why are you here?" she asked when he entered. Damien looked at the unpaid bills first. Then the cracked phone. Then the hidden letter beneath her sleeve. "I only want answers," he said calmly. Amara laughed bitterly through tears. "Rich people only want answers after they destroy someone." Silence hit the room hard. Even Marcus lowered his eyes slightly. Damien stepped closer but kept distance between them. "What is your real name?" he asked softly. Evelyn suddenly grabbed the blanket tightly. Panic filled her weak voice. "Do not say it." The room became still. Then a doctor entered carrying a thin brown folder. "These are the old admission files you requested." Damien opened the folder slowly. Half the pages were missing. Someone had removed them years ago. But one surviving page remained. A birth record. Damien's eyes stopped on a single line. Mother, Evelyn Bennett. Child, Amelia, the rest had been torn away. Marcus looked shocked. Someone removed the last name. At that exact moment, Vanessa quietly appeared at the hallway corner watching everything. Her expression changed instantly when she saw the folder. She quickly stepped away and pulled out her phone. "He found the records," she whispered angrily. "Fix this before he connects the girl to the family." Back inside the room, Evelyn began crying weakly into her pillow. "I tried to save her," she whispered. Amara stared at her mother in confusion and fear. Damien slowly lifted the torn birth record again. Then his face hardened. There was a second name handwritten faintly beneath the missing section. A witness signature. Naomi Cole. Damien stopped breathing for 1 second. Naomi Cole was his late mother. Naomi Cole. The name echoed inside Damien's head like broken glass. Rain kept hitting the hospital windows while silence swallowed the room. Amara stared at Damien in confusion. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she whispered. Before Damien could answer, Marcus suddenly stepped closer and lowered his voice. "Sir, the missing pages were removed recently." Damien's face hardened instantly. "By who?" Marcus hesitated. Then his eyes shifted toward the hallway. Vanessa was gone. Downstairs, Vanessa Cole sat inside her SUV gripping her phone so tightly her nails almost broke. "I told you to destroy every copy," she snapped angrily. "If Damien connects that girl to Naomi, everything is over." Back upstairs, Amara carefully moved closer to her mother's bed. Fear covered her exhausted face. Mom, who is Naomi Cole? Evelyn immediately looked away. Tears filled her eyes. Please stop asking, she begged weakly. They ruined enough lives already. The room became heavy with silence. Then suddenly, 2 hospital security guards appeared outside the door. Behind them stood Vanessa in a cream-colored coat, elegant and cold. There she is, Vanessa said sharply, pointing at Amara. The girl who has been manipulating my family. Amara froze. Damien turned slowly. Vanessa, he warned quietly. But Vanessa walked directly inside the room without fear. Do you know what she is doing? Vanessa asked loudly so everyone could hear. She is pretending to be connected to the Cole family for money. Amara's face turned red with humiliation. That is not true. Vanessa laughed cruelly. Then why are you hiding letters and fake records? One of the nurses lowered her eyes awkwardly. 2 people outside the hallway started recording with their phones again. The pressure returned instantly. I never asked for your money, Amara whispered painfully. Vanessa stepped closer. Poor girls always say that first. Damien's jaw tightened immediately. Enough. But Vanessa was not finished. She pulled out a folded paper from her purse. I already spoke with hospital administration, she announced. This room was paid through temporary charity funds connected to the Cole Foundation. Effective tonight, those funds are suspended. Evelyn gasped weakly from the bed. Amara looked completely shattered. Please, she begged softly. My mother needs treatment. Vanessa's eyes stayed cold. Then stop lying about my family. The humiliation hit harder than before. Nurses looked uncomfortable. Security guards waited silently near the door. Rich people whispered outside the hallway. Amara felt trapped from every side again. I said enough, Damien repeated firmly. But Vanessa turned toward him with fake tears in her eyes. Damien, she is using your kindness. Look at her. She suddenly appears with old papers the same week the inheritance board meets. Marcus immediately looked up at that sentence. Damien noticed it too. Vanessa had accidentally revealed something she should not know. What inheritance board? Damien asked slowly. Vanessa froze for half a second. Tiny. But enough. Marcus quietly wrote something down. Amara looked between them, confused and humiliated. Then Evelyn suddenly began coughing violently again. The heart monitor alarm started ringing. Mom! Amara cried. Doctors rushed inside immediately. A nurse pushed Amara backward toward the hallway. We need space. Amara stumbled outside holding the yellow letter tightly against her chest. Vanessa leaned closer one last time. You should disappear before you embarrass yourself again. Tears rolled down Amara's face, but she refused to lower her eyes this time. Why are you so afraid of me? She whispered. Vanessa's expression cracked for one dangerous second. Damien saw it clearly. So did Marcus. A tiny hope flickered alive. But it vanished again when the doctor stepped outside moments later. Treatment cannot continue without immediate payment. Amara looked destroyed. She slowly slid down against the cold hospital wall while rich strangers watched in silence. Then a small voice suddenly broke through the hallway. Miss Amara, everyone turned. A little janitor boy stood there nervously holding an old hospital envelope. I found this in the storage room, he whispered. It has her real name on it. Vanessa's face instantly lost all color. The old hospital envelope shook slightly in the janitor boy's hands. Rain thundered outside while everyone in the hallway stared at him. Vanessa stepped forward too quickly. Give me that, she snapped. But Damien moved first. He took the envelope calmly before Vanessa could touch it. The hallway fell silent. Amara slowly stood up from the floor, wiping tears from her face. Her exhausted eyes stayed locked on the envelope like it carried the answer to her entire life. Damien opened it carefully. Inside was an old patient file stained by water and age. One paper slipped halfway out. Marcus immediately noticed the name typed across the top. Amelia Cole Bennett. Vanessa stopped breathing for a second. Amara looked confused. That is not my name. Damien's eyes narrowed. Maybe someone made sure you never knew it. Marcus carefully unfolded another page. A faded hospital bracelet dropped onto the floor. The silver tag carried the same family crest from Naomi Cole's signature. A nurse gasped softly. That crest belonged to the original Cole Family Foundation. Vanessa quickly forced a laugh. Old papers mean nothing. But nobody laughed with her this time. Damien slowly lifted the bracelet into the light. His hand trembled slightly for the first time. Why would a poor waitress have this? He asked quietly. No one answered. Evelyn began crying weakly from inside the room. I tried to protect her, she whispered again. The entire hallway became painfully still. Then Marcus found another document hidden behind the file. A transfer form. The baby names section had been scratched out violently, but one line survived. Guardian transfer approved by Vanessa Cole. Damien's eyes rose slowly toward Vanessa. You signed this? Vanessa's voice cracked instantly. I do not remember that document. You remember enough to panic, Marcus replied sharply. Amara looked completely overwhelmed now. What is happening to me? She whispered. Damien turned toward her carefully. Miss Bennett, how long have you worn that necklace? Amara instinctively touched the tiny silver pendant beneath her faded waitress uniform. Since I was a child. Damien stared at it. The pendant matched the symbol on Naomi Cole's archived records exactly. A first piece of truth finally stood in the open. Tiny. Incomplete. But real. Even the doctors stopped walking. The guards lowered their eyes awkwardly. For the first time, the crowd no longer looked at Amara like she was trash. They looked confused. Suspicious. Curious. Vanessa noticed the shift immediately. She stole it, she said quickly. Poor people steal things all the time. Amara flinched at the insult. But Damien's voice turned colder than before. Enough. The hallway froze again. Damien handed the bracelet to Marcus carefully. Verify every hospital archive connected to Naomi Cole. Marcus nodded immediately. Then Damien looked back at Vanessa. And find out why her name is on a hidden transfer order. Vanessa's calm mask began breaking apart. Damien, you are humiliating me over a waitress. No, Damien answered quietly. I am questioning why you are terrified of one. That sentence hit the hallway like thunder. Amara looked down at the papers again. Her hands were shaking too hard to hold them. I do not understand any of this, she whispered painfully. A tiny moment of hope flickered when Damien removed his coat and gently placed it over her shoulders. You should not stand in the cold, he said softly. Even Amara looked shocked by the gesture. If you are watching this story right now, tell me in the comments, what do you think Vanessa is hiding, and why is she so afraid of Amara's real name? But before the moment could settle, another obstacle arrived instantly. A hospital administrator hurried down the hallway carrying new papers. Miss Bennett, he announced nervously, your mother's treatment has been frozen pending identity investigation. Amara's face fell apart again. No, Vanessa quietly smiled through her panic. You see. Even the hospital knows something is wrong. Damien turned sharply toward the administrator. Who ordered this? The man hesitated. An anonymous legal request. Marcus immediately grabbed the papers. His expression darkened. Sir, the request came from a law office connected to the Cole estate. Vanessa looked away too fast. Another silence hit. Another crack in the lie. Then suddenly, the janitor boy tugged lightly on Marcus's sleeve. "There is more," he whispered nervously. "I found an old camera drive in the basement storage room too." Vanessa's eyes widened in pure fear. Damien noticed instantly. And this time, he did not look away. Vanessa's face turned pale the moment Damien looked at her. The tiny camera drive resting in Marcus's hand suddenly felt heavier than gold. The hospital hallway stayed silent except for the weak sound of rain outside and Evelyn's coughing inside the room. "Open it," Damien said calmly. Marcus connected the old drive to his tablet immediately. The screen flickered. Static filled the display first. Then an old hospital security recording slowly appeared. The timestamp was from 23 years earlier. Nurses moved through the hallway carrying a newborn baby wrapped in a faded yellow blanket. Amara stared at the screen without understanding. Vanessa crossed her arms tightly. "This proves nothing." But then the footage paused suddenly. Marcus zoomed in carefully. A woman appeared beside the newborn. Naomi Cole. Damien's late mother. The entire hallway froze. "My mother," Damien whispered under his breath. Naomi gently placed a silver pendant around the baby's neck. The same pendant hanging around Amara's throat right now. A nurse gasped loudly. "That necklace," Vanessa immediately stepped forward. "Old footage can be manipulated." But her voice shook badly now. Damien slowly turned toward Amara. For the first time, his eyes softened completely. "You wore that your entire life?" Amara nodded weakly. "My mother said never to take it off." Evelyn began crying again from the hospital bed. Because it was the only thing Naomi left her. Silence crashed through the hallway. Even the guards looked uncomfortable now. A first real crack had opened in the lie. Marcus played the footage again. This time, another figure appeared briefly at the end of the hallway. Vanessa. Younger. Nervous. Holding papers. Then the video suddenly cut to black. "Someone edited the rest," Marcus said quietly. Vanessa immediately pointed at the tablet. "Exactly. There is no proof." Damien looked directly into her eyes. "There is enough for me to start asking the right questions." Amara looked overwhelmed by everything happening around her. "Why would your mother leave something to me?" she whispered painfully. Damien stepped closer but kept his voice gentle. "I do not know yet." Then he noticed her trembling hands. Without thinking, he slowly removed his own suit jacket and wrapped it more carefully around her shoulders. "You should sit down," he said softly. Nobody in the hallway missed that moment. Vanessa certainly did not. Jealousy burned across her face instantly. "Do not act like her savior now," she snapped bitterly. Damien ignored her completely. Instead, he crouched slightly so Amara would not feel smaller than him. "Your mother needs treatment tonight," he said quietly. "I will handle the payment for now." Amara looked stunned. "Why would you help me?" Damien paused before answering. "Because somebody spent years trying to erase you." That sentence broke something inside Amara. Tears rolled silently down her face. She looked away quickly, ashamed to cry again. A tiny emotional bond formed there. Fragile. Quiet. Real. Little Daniel, the janitor boy, stepped closer nervously. "Miss Amara is kind," he whispered. "She always gave me leftover food after work." Damien looked at the boy for a long second. Then back at Amara. More silence. More questions. If you are watching this story right now, tell me in the comments, what do you think Vanessa is truly afraid of, and why did Naomi Cole hide that baby so many years ago? But hope lasted only seconds. Marcus suddenly frowned at the tablet screen. "Sir," he replayed the footage again slowly. "There is another problem. The video timestamp skipped exactly 14 minutes. Edited deliberately. Vanessa immediately grabbed onto that weakness. See? Someone is framing me. Damien stayed calm, but his jaw tightened. Or someone removed 14 minutes because the truth was inside them. Before anyone could speak again, Evelyn weakly reached toward Amara from the bed. Baby. She whispered painfully. Do not trust the mansion. Amara quickly rushed to her side. Mom. Evelyn grabbed her wrist tightly. They promised to protect you once before. Her breathing became uneven again. Then they abandoned us. Damien heard every word. So did Vanessa. Fear flashed across Vanessa's eyes again when Marcus suddenly received a message on his phone. He looked up immediately. Sir, a retired nurse just contacted me. Damien's expression darkened. What did she say? Marcus swallowed hard. She says she knows what happened the night Amara disappeared. Marcus lowered the phone slowly. The retired nurse was crying so hard she could barely breathe. Damien took the call without hesitation and stepped toward the hospital window. Rain slid down the glass behind him while Vanessa watched from the hallway with growing panic. Tell me exactly what happened that night, Damien said quietly. The old woman's voice trembled through the speaker. The baby was never abandoned. Silence. Amara looked up instantly from beside her mother's bed. Evelyn closed her eyes like she already knew the pain coming. What do you mean? Damien asked. The nurse swallowed hard. Naomi Cole ordered us to protect the child. She said someone inside the mansion wanted the baby gone. Vanessa's face changed immediately. This is nonsense, she snapped loudly. But nobody looked at her anymore. Marcus slowly opened an old digital file the nurse had just sent. A faded hospital record appeared on the screen. One name had been scratched out by hand. Another had been typed over it years later. Amara Reed. Damien stared at the document without blinking. Who changed this file? He asked coldly. The nurse hesitated. I never saw the person clearly. Her breathing shook harder. But I heard a woman say the baby could never return to the Cole family. Evelyn suddenly grabbed Amara's hand tightly from the hospital bed. I tried to protect you, she whispered weakly. Tears filled Amara's eyes. Protect me from what? Evelyn looked away in shame. From the people who destroyed your mother. The room fell silent again. Damien slowly turned toward the old photograph Marcus had placed beside Amara earlier. Naomi Cole stood smiling in the picture. Beside her was another young woman holding a newborn baby wrapped in yellow cloth. Half the photo had been torn away. Who cut this picture? Damien whispered. Marcus zoomed in carefully. A ring was visible on the missing woman's hand. The same rare emerald ring Vanessa still wore today. Vanessa stepped back instantly. That proves nothing. But her voice cracked now. Amara looked completely lost. Why would your family hide me? She asked softly. Damien looked at her for a long moment before answering. Because someone feared what your existence could change. The words hit Vanessa harder than a slap. Daniel suddenly spoke from the doorway again. Miss Amara's necklace, everyone looked toward the child. I saw the same symbol on the big gate at the mansion. Damien's eyes narrowed immediately. Marcus checked the pendant closely. The silver emblem matched the original Cole family crest used decades earlier before the company rebranding. Another silence. Another wound opening. If Amara carried that crest since birth, then Naomi's connection to her was real. Tiny hope finally flickered across Amara's face for the first time. Not happiness. Just relief that she was not crazy. That her mother had not lied to her. Damien noticed her shaking hands again. You deserved answers years ago, he said quietly. But the moment shattered instantly when Vanessa stepped forward aggressively. Enough. Her sharp voice echoed through the hallway. You are turning a poor girl into a fantasy because of old papers and fake stories. She pointed directly at Amara. People like her survive by manipulation. Amara lowered her eyes painfully. Damien's expression darkened immediately. Do not speak about her that way again. Vanessa froze. The nurse's voice returned weakly through the phone. There is something else. Everyone listened carefully now. The person who changed the record still lives inside the mansion. Vanessa's breathing stopped for one terrible second. Marcus looked at Damien slowly. Sir, there is one more attachment. He opened another scanned image. A hidden legal document appeared on the screen. The signature at the bottom belonged to Damien's late father. And beside it, one missing beneficiary name had finally become visible. Amara Cole. Vanessa's face lost all color the moment the name appeared on the screen. Amara Cole. The hospital room became painfully quiet. Even the rain outside seemed to stop. Damien stared at the document for several long seconds before locking the tablet screen. Nobody leaves this floor, he said calmly. Vanessa recovered fast. Too fast. This is forged, she snapped immediately. Anybody can fake an old document. Marcus looked uncertain for the first time. The nurse was still crying softly through the phone line. Amara stood frozen beside her mother's bed, gripping the old necklace tightly in her shaking hand. Then Vanessa slowly smiled again. A dangerous smile. If she really belongs to this family, she said coldly, then why did she spend her whole life cleaning tables and begging for rent money? The words cut deep. Amara lowered her eyes instantly. Damien noticed it. So did Evelyn. Vanessa stepped closer now, lowering her voice carefully. Poor people learn very quickly how to survive rich men. That is enough, Damien warned. But Vanessa was already building the trap in her mind. 2 hours later, Amara received an urgent message from the Cole family attorney. She was asked to appear at the mansion immediately to clarify false inheritance claims. Her hands trembled while reading it. I did not ask for money, she whispered. I only wanted the truth. Evelyn grabbed her wrist weakly. Do not go alone. But they had no choice. Hospital bills were already overdue again. The landlord had locked their apartment that morning. Daniel had not eaten since yesterday. And now security guards waited downstairs beside black luxury SUVs. The mansion looked even colder at night. Golden lights. Marble floors. Expensive perfume in the air. Rich guests whispering behind crystal glasses. Amara stood near the entrance in her faded waitress uniform while dozens of wealthy eyes turned toward her again. Some recognized her from the restaurant humiliation video already spreading online. Phones slowly lifted again. Vanessa stood in the center of the room wearing white silk and diamonds like a queen preparing for battle. There she is, Vanessa announced loudly. The girl pretending to be part of this family. Murmurs spread instantly. She fooled Mr. Cole. She wants inheritance money. These people always come when they smell wealth. Amara's breathing became uneven. Damien entered moments later with Marcus behind him, but Vanessa spoke before he could reach the center. Before anyone believes this story, she continued smoothly, everyone deserves to know the truth about Miss Amara Reed. A large envelope was placed on the table. Vanessa opened it dramatically. Inside were fake debt papers, edited work complaints, and a false statement claiming Amara had tried to steal customer information from the restaurant months earlier. Gasps filled the room. No, Amara whispered. That is not real. Vanessa turned toward the guests. She targets wealthy people. You are lying, Daniel shouted suddenly from beside the staircase. The room froze. Vanessa looked down at the boy with disgust. Children repeat whatever desperate adults teach them. Daniel's small fists tightened. My sister saved people while rich people laughed at her. Silence hit the room for one painful second. Tiny hope. Damien looked carefully at the fake documents again. One signature date did not match the company timeline Marcus had already verified earlier. He noticed it instantly. But before he could speak, Vanessa stepped closer to Amara again. Sign this, she demanded sharply, sliding papers across the table. Sign that you fabricated this story for money, and the Cole family will pay your mother's hospital debt. Amara stared at the paper in horror. Evelyn's medicine. Daniel's future. Her last chance. The entire room watched silently. Please, Amara whispered weakly, tears filling her eyes. I never lied. Then prove it, Vanessa shot back. Where is the final proof? Amara had no answer. The necklace alone was not enough. The hospital file was incomplete. The missing page still had not been found. Vanessa saw the hesitation immediately and turned to the crowd triumphantly. Exactly. More whispers exploded across the mansion. Fraud. Scammer. Attention seeker. A guard stepped closer to escort Amara out. Damien suddenly spoke. Quiet. Controlled. Dangerous. Something here still does not fit. Vanessa's smile twitched slightly. But she recovered again. You are letting emotions blind you. Marcus leaned toward Damien carefully. Sir, the original camera archive from the restaurant may still exist. The deleted footage was backed up automatically. Tiny hope flashed again across Damien's face. But before he could respond, Vanessa raised her voice sharply. Remove her from this house. Two guards moved forward immediately. Daniel began crying openly now. Do not take my sister away. Amara closed her eyes slowly. Defeat finally settled across her exhausted face. Then suddenly, the mansion doors opened again. Every head turned. A courier walked inside carrying a sealed legal box stamped with the original Cole family crest. Marcus stepped forward immediately. Sir, he said carefully. This just arrived from the old family law office. Vanessa stopped breathing for half a second. And Damien slowly looked at her for the first time like he already knew she was terrified. The sealed legal box sat in the center of the mansion table like a bomb nobody wanted to touch. Guests stopped whispering. Crystal glasses lowered slowly. Even the musicians near the staircase had gone silent. Damien stood beside the table in his dark suit, one hand resting calmly on the old box stamped with the original Cole family crest. Vanessa tried to smile again, but tension had already entered her eyes. Open it, one guest whispered softly. Marcus carefully unlocked the metal clasps. Inside were old legal records, photographs, hospital files, and one flash drive labeled in faded ink, Private Family Archive. Amara remained near the doorway, still holding Daniel's hand tightly. Her faded uniform looked painfully small inside the giant mansion filled with diamonds and silk dresses. Some guests stared at her with pity now. Others still looked suspicious. Vanessa straightened her shoulders. This changes nothing, she announced loudly. A poor girl with stolen papers is still a liar. Amara lowered her eyes again, but Damien stepped slightly in front of her before the crowd could move closer. Quiet authority. Calm. Controlled. Nobody will insult her again tonight, he said firmly. Silence spread across the room immediately. Marcus connected the flash drive to the mansion projector while security guards quietly closed the ballroom doors. No one was leaving now. Vanessa noticed it instantly. Damien, she said carefully, you are humiliating this family over rumors. Damien looked directly at her. Then the truth should protect you. That line froze the room. Tiny hope flickered across Amara's exhausted face again. Daniel slowly moved closer beside her. Maybe Mom was right, he whispered softly. Maybe somebody finally sees us. Vanessa heard him and snapped immediately. Children do not understand adult lies. But this time, fewer people nodded with her. Marcus opened the first file carefully. An old mansion guest list appeared on the screen dated 22 years earlier. Naomi Cole's name. Damien's late father. Vanessa's mother. And another name partly hidden beneath correction ink. Guests leaned closer. Zoom in, Damien ordered quietly. Marcus enlarged the file. The hidden names slowly became visible beneath the faded edit marks. Evelyn Reed. Amara's mother gasped weakly from her wheelchair near the back of the ballroom. Vanessa immediately interrupted. That proves she worked for the family years ago. Nothing more. Her voice sounded sharper now. Too fast. Too defensive. Damien noticed it. So did several guests. The ballroom tension thickened. Phones stopped recording. People were no longer entertained. They were nervous. Marcus opened another document. A hospital transfer record connected to the same date. But before he could read it fully, Vanessa suddenly stepped forward and slammed the folder shut. Enough, she shouted. Gasps spread across the mansion. This woman is manipulating all of you. She pointed directly at Amara again. Look at her clothes. Look at her background. She came from nothing. Amara's face burned with shame. But Damien did not move away from her side. And yet she still carries more dignity than the people who hurt her, he answered quietly. The silence afterward felt heavier than shouting. Around the ballroom, wealthy guests slowly exchanged uncomfortable looks. Some began questioning earlier assumptions. One older woman whispered, "Why would someone erase a servant girl's name from official records?" Another guest frowned at Vanessa. "Why are you so desperate to stop this?" Vanessa's control slipped for one dangerous second. "Because this family built everything we have," she snapped. "And strangers do not get to walk in and take it." Marcus looked toward Damien immediately. Another clue. Another crack in the story. Around 60% through the night's tension, the narrator voice almost seemed to hang inside the ballroom itself. If you were standing in this room, who would you believe now? The rich woman protecting her empire, or the poor girl still shaking beside the door? The projector light flickered again. Marcus slowly inserted the final archive file into the screen system. "Sir," he said carefully. "This appears to be the original restaurant security footage." Vanessa's face went pale instantly. Tiny hope exploded across Daniel's eyes. Amara barely breathed anymore. Damien looked toward the massive screen without speaking. "Play it," he ordered softly. But just before Marcus pressed the button, Vanessa stepped in front of the projector beam. "Do not do this," she warned. "Some truths destroy families forever." Damien's expression never changed. "Some lies already did." The room fell silent again. Marcus's hand hovered over the keyboard. The first frozen frame appeared on the giant screen behind Vanessa. A younger version of her standing beside Damien's father near a hospital corridor. And in the corner of that same image, a nurse holding a newborn baby wrapped in yellow cloth. Vanessa slowly turned toward the screen. For the first time all night. She looked afraid. The frozen image on the mansion screen finally moved. Grainy hospital footage flickered across the ballroom walls. Nurses walked through an old corridor. Doctors rushed past. Then the camera captured Vanessa standing beside Damien's father outside a private maternity room 22 years earlier. The ballroom fell completely silent. Nobody touched their drinks anymore. Nobody whispered. Marcus slowly enhanced the footage while Damien stood motionless beside the projector. Vanessa's breathing became shallow. "This proves nothing," she said quickly. But her voice no longer sounded powerful. The video continued. A nurse stepped out carrying a newborn wrapped in yellow cloth. The exact same cloth shown in the old photograph. Then Damien's father handed the nurse a document folder stamped with the Cole crest. "Protect the child," his voice crackled through the damaged audio. "Nobody from the family can know yet." Gasps spread across the mansion instantly. Amara looked frozen beside Daniel. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped the necklace. Vanessa stepped toward the screen desperately. "The footage is edited." Damien finally spoke. Calm. Sharp. "Then why are you afraid of it?" Silence crushed the room again. Marcus opened the second file from the legal box. A hospital birth certificate appeared on the screen. Original name, Amara Cole. Mother, Naomi Cole's younger sister, Leah Cole. The ballroom exploded into shocked murmurs. Leah disappeared years ago. The family said she ran away. That girl, phones slowly lowered now. Nobody laughed anymore. Amara's knees nearly gave out beneath her. Evelyn began crying quietly from her wheelchair. "I promised your mother I would keep you alive," she whispered painfully. Vanessa shook her head violently. "No. Leah abandoned that child." But another document immediately appeared. A handwritten letter. Leah's signature at the bottom. Marcus read carefully. "If anything happens to me, protect my daughter from Vanessa." The room went dead silent. Vanessa's face drained completely now. Damien slowly looked toward her. "You knew," he said softly. "You knew from the beginning." Vanessa tried to interrupt again. "Your father wanted that child hidden." "No," Damien answered firmly. "My father wanted her protected." Another emotional wave hit the ballroom. Daniel stepped closer to his sister, gripping her hand tightly. "You were never nobody," he whispered. Tears rolled silently down Amara's face now. She could not even speak anymore. The humiliation from the restaurant. The slap. The accusations. The poverty. Suddenly every wound carried a different meaning. Marcus opened the third and final file. A legal inheritance amendment signed by Damien's late father shortly before his death. One sentence made the entire room freeze. "My niece, Amara Cole, remains rightful beneficiary under family protection." Public silence swallowed the mansion whole. Guests who mocked her earlier lowered their eyes. One woman quietly turned off her recording phone. Another guest whispered, "My God." Vanessa backed away slowly. This family would have collapsed because of her mother, she snapped desperately. "I protected everything." But the old nurse suddenly entered the ballroom doors in person, trembling beside two assistants. "No," she cried openly. "You protected yourself." Every head turned toward her instantly. Vanessa ordered the records changed, the nurse continued through tears. "She paid staff to erase Leah's child after the accident." Vanessa panicked now. "You are lying." "Then explain the payments," Marcus interrupted calmly, placing financial records on the screen beside the hospital files. Transaction after transaction appeared linked to Vanessa's private accounts years ago. Damien's jaw tightened slowly. The final wall had broken. "You destroyed her life before she could even speak," he said quietly. Vanessa looked around desperately for support. None came. Not from the guests. Not from the lawyers. Not even from the family members standing near the staircase. For the first time in the entire night, she stood alone. Amara wiped her tears slowly while staring at the screen showing her real name beside the Cole family crest. Amara Cole. The identity stolen from her since birth. The truth everyone buried. Damien stepped beside her carefully without touching her yet. Protective. Steady. "Look at me," he said softly. Amara finally raised her eyes toward him. "You were never the shame of this family." Vanessa suddenly shouted again through panic. "If this goes public, the company will collapse." Damien turned toward her one final time. His voice stayed calm. But now it carried something colder than anger. So you knew exactly what you were destroying. The entire ballroom stared directly at Vanessa now. And Marcus slowly opened one final legal document labeled, Criminal Fraud Investigation Pending. Vanessa stared at the criminal investigation document like the paper itself had turned against her. Her fingers shook. Her perfect smile was gone now. Around the ballroom, nobody defended her anymore. The same wealthy guests who once laughed at Amara slowly stepped away from Vanessa as if they suddenly feared standing too close to her lies. Damien closed the legal folder carefully. Calm. Controlled. Dangerous in a quiet way. This family spent 22 years protecting the wrong person, he said. The silence after his words felt heavier than thunder. Vanessa swallowed hard and tried one final time to regain control. I did this for the family, she whispered. Everything I built was for this mansion. Marcus stepped forward immediately. You built your power on a stolen life. Vanessa looked toward the older family members desperately, but even they lowered their eyes now. Naomi slowly removed the diamond family ring from Vanessa's hand. Nobody moved. Nobody interrupted. You do not carry this name anymore, Naomi said coldly. Gasps spread across the ballroom again. Vanessa's lips trembled. You cannot humiliate me like this. Damien answered without raising his voice. You humiliated an innocent woman in front of the world. Amara stood silently beside Daniel, still holding the necklace that once looked worthless in everyone's eyes. Now the same necklace sat under the ballroom lights like undeniable truth. The old nurse wiped tears from her face and nodded toward Amara gently. Your mother never abandoned you, she whispered. She begged them to protect you. Amara finally broke down crying. Quiet tears. Deep pain. Years of shame melting into one moment. Daniel wrapped his small arms around her waist tightly. We are not alone anymore, he said softly. Several guests looked away in guilt. One woman who recorded the restaurant incident earlier slowly deleted the video from her phone. Another guest whispered, she begged them for mercy. And nobody listened. Damien turned toward the legal team standing near the staircase. Effective immediately, Vanessa Cole is removed from all company authority and family financial control pending investigation. Vanessa stepped backward in shock. Damien, please, do not beg now, Naomi interrupted sharply. Amara begged too. Public silence crashed over the mansion once again. Vanessa looked at Amara desperately now. You do not understand what your mother did. Amara slowly lifted her eyes for the first time. Tired. Hurt. But no longer broken. Maybe I never knew the whole truth, she said quietly. But I know who destroyed my life. That sentence hit harder than shouting ever could. Marcus placed the final hospital records on the ballroom table beside the faded photograph and the necklace. Every secret object that once buried Amara's identity now stood together openly in front of everyone. The old letter. The altered birth certificate. The hidden inheritance amendment. The camera footage. The necklace from her mother. Nothing could be denied anymore. Vanessa finally collapsed into a chair. Not from violence. From exposure. From shame. From the weight of truth she could no longer control. Damien looked toward Amara carefully. His expression softened for the first time that night. Your mother trusted my father to keep you safe, he said quietly. We failed her. Amara lowered her eyes, tears falling silently onto the necklace in her hand. I only wanted my brother to eat, she whispered. I never wanted their money. Several guests began crying quietly now. Even the security guards looked ashamed remembering how they dragged her through the mansion gates hours earlier. Naomi slowly walked toward Amara with trembling hands. Your room was never supposed to disappear, she said softly. Your place in this family was stolen. Tiny sobs escaped Evelyn's chest from her wheelchair nearby. Daniel looked around the giant ballroom in disbelief. The same mansion that once treated them like dirt now stood completely silent before them. Damien took one final step closer. Not as a billionaire above her. Not as a powerful heir. But as someone trying to repair a broken promise. Your hospital bills are already covered, he said calmly. Daniel will return to school. And nobody will ever force you onto the street again. Amara looked stunned. She could barely breathe. For the first time in years, somebody believed her without asking her to beg. Damien then reached into the legal folder and carefully placed a restored identity document into Amara's trembling hands. Her real name. Her real family record. Her real place. The ballroom doors slowly opened behind them toward the grand staircase leading deeper into the mansion. Warm golden light spilled across the marble floor. Naomi touched Amara's shoulder gently. Come home, she whispered. And Damien looked directly at her before saying the words she had waited her whole life to hear. You are finally home. Amara stood frozen at the entrance of the mansion while the warm golden lights reflected across the marble floor beneath her worn shoes. Daniel held her hand tightly. His small fingers trembled, but for the first time in years, it was not from fear. Behind them, the ballroom slowly emptied into silence. Nobody laughed anymore. Nobody whispered anymore. The same people who once watched her cry now lowered their eyes as she walked past them with dignity. Naomi gently guided Evelyn's wheelchair beside Amara. The older woman looked weak, but peaceful now. Hospital nurses waited quietly near the staircase, ready to take her to a private recovery room already prepared inside the estate. You do not need to worry about medicine anymore, Naomi whispered softly. Evelyn began crying immediately. Silent tears rolled down her tired face. I prayed somebody would finally hear my daughter, she said weakly. Damien walked beside Amara without touching her, giving her space after so many years of humiliation. But his presence felt steady. Protective. Safe. The legal transfer is already prepared, Marcus explained quietly while handing Amara a folder. Your family rights, your mother's records, and Daniel's school registration are all restored. Amara stared down at the papers with shaking hands. For years, she carried unpaid bills, eviction notices, and hospital debts inside old plastic bags. Now the first documents placed into her hands carried her real name. Her real identity. Her real place in the family she never knew was hers. Daniel looked up at her with wide eyes. Does this mean we can stay together? He asked softly. Amara could not answer at first. She pulled him into her arms and cried quietly against his shoulder. Always, she whispered. Nobody will separate us again. The old necklace rested carefully around her neck once more. But now it no longer looked like a poor girl's cheap keepsake. Under the mansion lights, the silver crest engraved into the pendant matched the same family symbol carved above the grand staircase. A symbol that once represented rejection now became proof that the truth survived every lie. Days later, the mansion no longer felt cold. Sunlight filled the breakfast room while Daniel laughed for the first time without fear of hunger. Fresh food covered the long table, but Amara still paused before eating, almost unable to believe nobody would take the plate away from her. Damien noticed immediately. Quietly, he slid the bowl closer toward her. You do not have to ask permission anymore, he said gently. Amara lowered her eyes, emotional again. I still feel like I do not belong here. Damien answered softly, you belonged here long before any of us understood the truth. The words settled deeply into her heart. Not like romance from a fantasy. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just respect. Healing. Peace after years of pain. Outside the mansion gates, reporters continued discussing Vanessa's public disgrace. She lost her authority, her social standing, and the inheritance she protected through lies. But inside the estate, nobody spoke about revenge anymore. The focus had finally returned to healing what was broken. Naomi reopened Amara's mother's old art room upstairs exactly as it looked years ago. Faded photographs rested beside unopened letters that had once been hidden away. One picture showed Amara's mother smiling while holding the same necklace Amara wore now. Amara touched the frame slowly. Tears filled her eyes again, but these tears felt different. Not shame. Not humiliation. Grief mixed with peace. "She never stopped loving you," Naomi whispered beside her. Daniel suddenly pointed toward the old photograph. "Mama, you smile like her." Amara laughed through tears for the first time in the story. Small. Soft. Real. Weeks later, Amara began working with the Family Charity Foundation, helping struggling single mothers and poor children near the same streets where she once begged for medicine. She wore simple, elegant clothes now, but she never forgot the feeling of standing outside locked gates with empty pockets and hungry eyes. One afternoon, she stopped beside the mansion entrance where guards once dragged her into the rain. She looked quietly at the giant iron gates. Damien walked beside her slowly. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. Amara smiled faintly. "I was thinking how easy it is for people to judge someone wearing old shoes." Damien looked at her carefully before answering, "and how dangerous it is to underestimate a good heart." Daniel ran across the garden laughing while Evelyn rested peacefully under the sunlight nearby. The mansion no longer felt like a prison built by lies. It finally felt like a home rebuilt by truth. Before entering the house again, Amara carefully placed the old necklace and her restored family documents inside a glass case near the staircase. Not as symbols of wealth, but as proof that suffering does not erase identity. And that truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way back into the light. Amara then took Daniel's hand and walked through the open doors beside the people who finally saw her worth. Because in the end, the poor girl they mocked carried more dignity than everyone who humiliated her. Do not judge people by old clothes, tired eyes, or empty pockets. Wealth can hide cruelty. Poverty can hide truth. Lies may survive for years, but they cannot survive forever. And one day, kindness, truth, and dignity will always stand taller than power built on shame.